I am happy to have my girl Neo finally back in the story. It's been a long time since Neo was relevant, and I'm just happy that Rooster Teeth hasn't forgot her, because honestly, I've always loved her design. I've always loved just, her sassy attitude. It's just always been a pleasure to have Neo in the story, so I'm just glad to see her. And that fighting segment of this episode was fantastic. I've had to have rewatched that scene easily about 3 to 5 times. Like, it's really that good. It's a really good fighting segment for this episode. Just seeing Cinder and Neo go at each other. And there's just quite a bit I need to talk about when it comes to that scene to explain what's going on there. So to begin, Neo, obviously she's angry at Cinder for what happened to Roman, and she wants vengeance. She wants to get back at what happened to her boss, and so she was hunting after Cinder. Cinder's like, look, it's Ruby's fault, not mine and all that. You need to stop, and basically, let's work together, let's team up, let's go after Ruby. And there's a lot of manipulation going on there from Cinder's side. And basically, when Cinder activates her magic from the Fall Maiden, you see how she starts rising, magic is being used, and you just see Neo's face in a look of absolute shock. Now, many might be like, why did Neo just back off that easily? Well, the reason why it's easy to see is that, number one, this is the first time that Neo has probably ever seen something like magic being used from Cinder. She said, holy crap, Cinder is ridiculously strong, using magic and stuff like nothing, and she's just worried, scared, and so she's like, you know what? I'll do what I've always done best. Know how to survive, use survival, and, basically when the time is right, then I will backstab Cinder and get my vengeance. So I feel like Neo is playing the long game. She's just basically like, look, if I can't fight her in a straight-up fight, it's not possible, I'll back off, I'll look like I'm her ally, and then right in the back when she, least expects it. Basically, that's what I think is going to go on, and there has been quite a few fan furies about Cinder, which I guess is relevant now and I should talk about, which would go along with Neo backstabbing Cinder. So to start off, you remember how basically the series began, Volume 6 began, and Cinder was like in a pool, and then she drug herself out of the pool, and she basically was in water, she got out. Many are wondering, how the hell did she survive? How did she not die in that moment and stuff? And someone mentioned to me on Twitter with a very interesting theory, and I'm like, that makes a lot of sense. You remember what happened to Salem? How she was thrown into the pool, the god of light's pool, and it gave her eternal life? Well, what if the pool that Cinder fell into was the exact same thing? What if she fell into the same pool that Salem did, and now she is immortal, which would explain how she survived that encounter with Raven and got back up. And also the reason why maybe, Salem doesn't even want to finish off Cinder is because she also knows that Cinder is probably immortal now. She fell into that pool. And this is really interesting if that is the case, because we do know that the pools are still active. Remember, Salem, she jumped into the God of Darkness's pool, so we do know that these pools are still active, even without the gods being there. So immortality is potentially still a thing. And most likely, the relic shrine being built on top of that would make sense. It would make, perfect sense if that really was the case. So, Cinder might be immortal. So, the reason what makes this really relevant, if this theory is true, when Neo backstabs Cinder, we'll find out that Cinder's actually immortal and cannot die. Now, that would be pretty freaking cool if that's the reveal that Rooster Teeth's going with for Cinder, but after what happened with the events of the last season, and if Neo does indeed backstab Cinder. But okay, dropping that for now, let's talk about the town. The town covered in snow. It's a very eerie part of the episode. I think everybody can agree that even though it wasn't action-packed, there was a lot of good just moments in that part of the episode. It had a very ominous tone to it, and I think that Rooster Teeth definitely deserves a lot of compliments for that. Basically setting up this town that is deserted, and then finding out that people died in their sleep, they never woke up. It's a very creepy introduction to this town. You're like, whoa, what's going on here? And, it's even more unsettling when you see someone like Yang saying, I'm getting tired, and then you see Weiss say, I'm getting tired, and you found out earlier on that people went to sleep and they never woke up and they supposedly died. So you're like, it's obvious that this town could potentially be doing something to them, making them want to pass out, and, something's going to attack them or whatever while they sleep. So there's a lot of things here that's just very creepy, and I just love the atmosphere that Rooster Teeth is setting up. It is definitely, I think, one of the most different episodes out of the entirety of RWBY. It's a very different episode. It has this very, I guess, creepy vibe to it that you just don't normally get. It kind of is just jarring and scary, and just seeing how, what's going on with the team, what they've just recently went through, it makes it even more unsettling because everybody's on edge, they're stressed out. It's like, you've had a very long day, you've been at work, and something really bad happened, and you're coming home, and you finally come home, and you're just, so drained, so worried, so stressed, and you really can't rest properly, but you're really tired. That's kind of what they're all going through. I mean, the whole revelation of finding out that Salem is immortal, can't be killed, and then, the whole purpose of what Osmond's been doing is basically pointless, it has everybody upset. They don't really know what to do. Nobody really has a purpose anymore. They're like, I guess the bad guys win, basically. And I feel like the way everything is, it sets up for a tone that something very bad is going to happen very soon. Like, someone could potentially die. For instance, Crow. Let's explain. Crow has had a lot of death flags for a while now. Since, earlier seasons. He's had so many death flags that built up. Last season really built it up. This season is building it up even more, especially with that opening song. And especially with what RWBY said in this episode, it makes it even more apparent that something could potentially bad happen very soon to Crow. She's like, I think we should lock this room off and not let my, uncle see this. We shouldn't let Uncle Crow see this room, which was a bar with a bunch of alcohol in it, which for obvious reasons we know Crow has a problem. He will, start drinking a lot when he's upset, and it's not really good, and he might make rash or wrong decisions, which in turn could endanger everybody there. And I feel like that's what RWBY was basically trying to say. After everything he's been through, and what has happened to him, he finally found purpose in Ozpin, and now realizing that his purpose was basically zero in the first place, he's really upset, and, if he felt that, it might lose himself, just drink too much, and something very bad is going to happen, because we do know that something is in the town, in the cellar, which, with that ending sequence, something happens, so we don't really know. We don't know if it's Grimm or not, but it's a really bad situation, and I feel like Rooster Teeth is perfectly setting up the tone that something very bad is about to happen. Now, speaking of which, let's talk about the old lady for a second. I find it very, very odd how she acted throughout this episode. She's like, close the door, it's already cold enough. It's like she knew where to go. And she told them to close the door. And then she was trying to find a book, and she opens up a book that says "I" on it. The first thing she sees, which is very weird because her eyes, are kind of messed up or whatever. She doesn't really have good seeing. And when she's like, opens up this book and wants to read it to people, I'm like, there's just something very off about this lady. She even took him down this path to go to this deserted village. And so there's just so many questions I have about this old lady and what her true purpose is with this group. Is she malicious? Is there something going on here that we don't know? Or is she going to be able to lead to something very important for our characters? Only time will actually let us know. But, regardless of all of that, though, we also get a lot of build-up for Yang and Blake as well within this episode. We know Yang has went through a lot ever since the events of Season 3. Season 4, Season 5, she went through a hell of a lot. And she's grown a lot as a person. She has fought to get back where she is, to be strong-willed again, to fight and feel like she is whole once again, even though she lost an arm. She is trying to be strong. And because of everything that's happened with the stress and all that, you can see where it's really getting to her, and the whole situation with Blake, it's a really uncomfortable, atmosphere for her. She is not used to having Blake around, especially after the events that happened in Season 3. And because of this, this pain she has felt for a very long time, abandonment to other things, you can see one of the things that really bug her is the fact that Blake wants to protect Yang, is looking down on Yang, and Yang obviously is very upset about this. She's like, when Blake's like, hey, I'll protect you and all that, and you can see how she got very upset, it's basically like Blake is looking down on her like, hey, you lost an arm, you're weak now, I'll protect you. It's making her feel very bad, and you can see that Yang doesn't really like that feeling of making it look like she's weak and can't do anything for herself, which we saw an example of this a couple episodes back on the train when she was, putting her luggage up and Blake decided to help. I do believe one of the best ways to fix this would be for Yang and Blake to have a conversation, but it's obviously not going to be that easy, not just because for plot reasons and conflict, but just from what Yang has been through and Blake has been through. It's not that easy to talk about what these two individuals have been through. I mean, we see a perfect example why it's not so easy. Yang is just walking through the building, and she looks out the window into the snow, and she sees Adam, and she freaks out. And this is PTSD. She is going through extreme PTSD, and obviously the events of Volume 3 are very fresh in her mind. She still remembers that constantly. She even admits she sees it every so often, visions or things like memories and all that constantly of what's happened in the past, and this has been with her. So I feel bad for Yang. I feel like she's going through a hard situation no one really can comprehend. Nobody in the group has really been through that. The only person I could say that might slightly understand would be Crow, but that's about it. So yeah, that's pretty much about the episode. Great episode. Love where Rooster Teeth went with it. I can't wait to see where the story's going to go from this point onward. You know, if something bad's going to happen, if anyone's going to die, we'll see. But let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoy my content, you know, please subscribe. If you like this video, please leave a like. And if you want to get notified for whenever I upload a video, please click the bell icon down below. And with that, Chibi out.